Okay, the second half of this assignment is how you go about coloring in the design, and the directions tell you specifically how you need to do the coloring. So, before we do the coloring, I'm going to have you practice some things on this worksheet. This is your practice space worksheet. So, your directions say that on number 9 says, each quadrant, or rather 2 quadrants that are diagonal from each other must have the same texture appear within a shape or a space by placing a texture item underneath the paper and coloring over the top. So in my sample, the texture item that I repeated diagonally was the blue areas here. So this blue design here and this blue design here was a texture design. I put some actual texture underneath my paper, and then I also repeated that same method in this egg shape. That texture was something that I colored under. I put the object under the paper, I colored over the top to bring out that texture. So I want you to practice the textures on here first before you put it on your final drawing. So your tables have these buckets full of texture items. I would sample the ones that look interesting to you. So this one is burlap plus lace, or you just have plain lace. That's the purple. You've got some orange netting. You have a piece of a paper doily. You've got some corrugated cardboard. You have these foam grips that have different textures. You've got white, you've got green, or a purple one. And then you've got these texture plates that are also similar to the cardboard. So this is for you to sample. So what you're going to do is you're going to place a texture item underneath your worksheet and kind of line it up so one box is over the top. Then you're going to use the color pencils to color across the top of the design and see what it looks like. You need to make sure your pencil's sharp enough that you've got enough color. The best way to do this is to tip the pencil at its side and then use the side of the pencil to start to color. You might have to adjust your hand pressure because coloring softly isn't going to show the design as much as if you press harder or a medium amount. So some of these texture items are going to make better designs than others. So that one wasn't necessarily as interesting. It got a little more interesting where those holes were, and that's why you practice on here first, because you might not like it and you don't want that on your final. So I'm going to try another one. Here's the piece of foam. I'm going to put that underneath the box, and I'm going to start to shade that in. Now that's making an interesting texture. So you can fill the whole box if you want to, or just do a portion so you can sample it and see what it looks like. Okay. Then maybe I sample the other piece of foam in the rest of that box. And switch colors so I can see that easier. Okay, so this one's going to start to make checker patterns as a texture. Let's try the other ones. I've got some orange netting. I'll put underneath, put my paper on top. And I'm going to use the side of the pencil. You can hear the texture on that one. So that orange netting makes a really interesting texture. Then I tested out the ribbon. Put that burlap and lace underneath, see what it looks like. And I can hear that texture also. So that one's kind of bumpy. Let's see if I can get that lace to show up. Okay, so you can kind of see the edges of the lace on that one. This is the actual lace. I'm going to try that piece. See what that one looks like. That one works really well. Okay, and I'm going to see what that burlap does. Regular burlap. I'll do that underneath that lace area. You can see the burlap is going to make tiny little like box marks. I'm going to try the cardboard. Put that underneath. So you just have to share the supplies with the other students at your table group. Please don't lose the supplies. Put them back in the bucket when you're done using them. Alright, that's what the cardboard looks like, and this plastic piece is also going to be similar to the cardboard. Just be careful, if you press too hard, you're going to rip through your paper. Okay, so once you've sampled them, figure out which ones you like and which ones you don't like. The directions just say that 2 diagonal quadrants have to repeat the same texture, but you may use multiple areas with texture. But like I said, I repeated the burlap with the blue diagonally, but then I also used the lace across here, so you can put texture in more than one spot. Alright, then step number 6 says that you need to have a shape that is colored in to show value. The way you can do that is change your hand pressure, or you can layer white or gray. So down here in the bottom of the worksheet, this is for you to practice your values and blending colors. So I'm going to try that just with my hand pressure. So I'm going to work with purple. And in this box, I'm going to make it start out dark and fade to light. So I'm going to press as hard as I can. Then I'm going to change my hand pressure. Now I'm pressing with medium pressure, and now I'm going to adjust my hand pressure and use my lightest hand pressure to show value. So that just faded from dark to light. That's one way you can create value. Another way you can create value is by changing out your colors. So for example, here's a light green and a dark green. So I could try another box where I start with the dark green, and then on the other side I can do the light green, and then I'm going to mix them in the middle to fade. So I'm going to start to color those towards each other, and I kind of also have to consider my hand pressure as I make it fade into another type of green. So that's an example of value, light green, dark green. Just make sure your pencils are sharp enough that they're easy to color with. When you do your shading, it's easiest to turn your pencil on the side to get the whole pencil. Okay, now I'm going to show you what white can look like. So if I put the whole color down first, so I'm using indigo, now what I can do is layer white on one portion and watch how it changes the color. So this one, it kind of brightens the color. So that's value right there, lighter, darker. Or I can layer gray over the color or black over the color to start to make value. So there's 3 examples of that: blue with the gray over top, the white over the top, and the pure hue. So this space is for you to sample your colors and practice your colors. Make a plan. On my teacher sample, the directions said that each quadrant must have a shape that is colored to show value. So all 4 quadrants have to demonstrate value. So I showed value right in this quadrant by making this fade from black to light gray. The ribbon is also fading from dark purple to light purple. The ribbon fades dark to light, dark to light, dark to light in all 4 quadrants. But I also use that process in other areas. So this gray, I pushed hard in the corner and I changed my hand pressure so it fades from dark to light here. This triangle fades from dark to light. This quadrant, this box fades from dark gray to light gray. So you can see that I showed value in all 4 quadrants. When I started to color in my text, or my pattern rather, I also repeated similar colors and similar patterns. So this pattern had the yellow in the background with the purple lines and dots, and I repeated that here. Yellow in the background, purple lines and dots. When I colored in my wavy pattern here, I actually made a pattern. So it goes pink, yellow, orange, pink, yellow, orange. And I created that pattern here, that pattern here. So the directions also say, number 8, you must use one color that appears in all 4 quadrants to create unity. So my one color that's in all 4 quadrants is purple. This ribbon fades from purple and it goes through all 4 quadrants. I also used yellow in all 4 quadrants. I have yellow here, yellow here, yellow here, yellow here. So I used yellow and purple in all 4 quadrants, and that's fine. Then step 10 says pick one area to go back over the top of with the same color, pressing as hard as you can to make it create emphasis. So something that stands out. So my emphasis would be my black spots here, my black spots here. They're darker, they're brighter, they stand out. Then step 11 says go back and add a drop shadow with gray along the edge of one of the first 3 shapes to make it appear 3D. So I took gray and I shaded along the edge of this shape. I shaded along the edge of my triangle, and I shaded along the edge of my egg. And I did that right over the top of the original background color. I went right over the blue here and right over the yellow here. So these shapes appear to look 3D to show form. And number 12 says you cannot have more than 3 areas total that are the plain white paper. You must use at least 4 colors total. So if you do want some white showing in your patterns, that's fine, but just 3 areas. And you have to use at least 4 colors total in the whole entire drawing. Then number 13 says remember to use contrasting colors next to each other, lights or darks, so that the lines and shapes stand out. So what that means is you don't want to put 2 dark colors together. So if I had colored this triangle gray and this space gray, that triangle wouldn't stand out because it's the same color. So the contrast makes this stand out. The light pink contrasts from the dark gray. So make sure you read those directions as you begin to color. Make sure you sample first on your practice paper before you start to put your color on your final. And then, consider craftsmanship. Be neat with the supplies as you use them.